as I was just kind of looking around on the interwebs and looking at the podcasts that you've been on and some of the YouTube videos that you'd been on with some other people, I didn't realize a couple things. And I've interviewed Matt Torres, your coach as well. I didn't realize you started writing your own programming at 12 years old.
Yeah.
What is that? How, like, tell me how that came about. Like, you were like, oh, I need to write my own programming.
Yeah, I had been doing the kids class for a couple months, and then I was like, this isn't enough. I need to do normal class. And then I did that for a couple years, and then I was like, this still isn't enough to do what I want to do, because I've always wanted to be the best. Like, I've never just wanted to qualify for the games. The goal's always been to win. And I've been like, okay, this is not going to get me here. I need to take a new big step. So at about 12, I left doing classes, which was a hard step. But I was like, oh, I can write my own programming. It probably won't be that hard. And wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew what I was bad at, and I wasn't afraid to do a lot of it, which in the short term, I think you can have a lot of success from that. But in the long term, it wasn't working. So I got so discouraged, felt really burnt out, and just like I hadn't seen progress in so long. So that was when I actually reached out to Nick, and because I met him at the games, the Granite Games, and he just connected me with Matt, and I was like, okay, I can see this being exactly what I need, because I've always felt like I just needed a little bit more, do something just a little bit different. And I was like, okay, I think this is the last thing that I need to do just a little bit different in programming. And then a couple months in, started seeing just huge, crazy games. I was like, wow, this is cool. But I didn't even know what was coming. Like, so much more came after that. And it was like, I thought that things were good, but I didn't even realize that things were just getting good.
I want to jump back into something that you said. Or you said that you didn't have a problem doing things you were bad at. I'm just curious, because most people probably think, you've just always been good at this stuff. Like, as you were coming up, what would you? I'm curious your perspective. From what do you view that you were bad at?
So much. I felt like
all the things.
Kind of depending on the day, I felt like everything could kind of be a weakness. And honestly, I still kind of feel like that. So that's when I have to look back at how far I've come. But my big things were gymnastics and barbell cycling. And now it's cool because I think those are my two strongest areas.
Yeah.
I felt like I used to be just really strong, and I was whenever you compared me to other teens. But then whenever I started trying to compete as an individual, I was like, okay, I'm not as strong as I thought I was. So then there was that too. And I just felt like I had so many holes in my game, and I had been trying to fix them for so long, and they were still there. So that was when I knew that I needed help, and that's definitely been the best choice I've ever made.
Of course, people may think you're biased because it's a brute strength podcast, and we're patting ourselves on the back over here. I'm curious, as you started to kind of build your coach-athlete relationship with Matt, what was that like coming in? I know, I mean, obviously you're younger, but I mean, it's very clear, anyone that listens to you, you're incredibly mature. You're more mature than probably most 30-year-olds, for that matter. I'm just curious, what was that like as you started to develop that relationship with him, and maybe what was that process like?
It was an amazing process. Matt believed in me from the very beginning, and like I thought I was really good then, but to look back and see that I didn't really believe in myself. Like, I believed in my potential, but I didn't really believe in where I was right then. Like, I was proud of where I was, but I always felt like I wasn't good enough. But Matt felt like I was exactly where I needed to be, and he had such a good plan for me to do what I wanted to do. Like, he's always known that I wanted to be the best, and I fully believe that he's always believed that. And like, so many people who I've told that haven't believed that. And like, I understand. I mean, I was 15 when I told him that. And a lot of people say they want to be the best, but not a lot of people are willing to do what it takes. But he knew I had the desire and the willingness and the hunger to do what it took. And it was just an awesome process knowing like I finally found somebody who gets me.
When you say you told, and you don't have to name the people that you told that evidently didn't believe you, but I'm just curious. We won't oust them on the podcast, but that would be rude. Anyways, I'm curious. Those people, what were those conversations like when they just discount you? They're like, oh, she's young, like she'll grow out of it. Was it that type of thing, or was it just like you don't understand how much this is going to cost you type of deal?
Yeah, it was always just like a smile and a laugh and a look on their face. And I could be like, yeah, they don't think I can do it. And I got that so often that I feel like I was very good at identifying people I didn't really want on my team based on that, or even want to be close with them in my life. Just people like whenever I said I wanted to be the best, I was 10 years old. I had no idea what it would take. No idea. But I knew I was willing to do it. And I've always known I could get there, even when I haven't known how I would get there. And Matt knew I could get there also, and he knew how I would get there. And to find that felt so good.
It's crazy. It's like you wrote Matt Torres a blank check, you know? You just said, here you go, Matt. Whatever you think, man, I'm on board. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see because obviously you had success younger, right? In the teenage division, and then that kind of, I guess your last year, or what would have been your last year, maybe in the teenage division, kind of got ripped away a little bit, I guess, by the pandemic and all of that. I'm just curious, was there ever a thought, because outside of Haley Adams, we in the CrossFit space can't really point to another teen that's had success coming from the teenage division to the elite division. Was there ever that doubt in your mind that you were going like, man, I don't think I'm going to get there, or man, this is too large of a bridge to kind of transverse? Was that ever in your head?
This was actually my last year in the team division. I was eligible for one more year, but I chose not to even do the age group online qualifier, just to go all in on this, because I knew I didn't need a backup plan. Like if I would have done the age group online qualifier, that would have been saying to myself, I think I might fail, and I knew I wouldn't fail. So I knew I could do it. There were definitely doubts though, and I think that doubts can be a good thing, and I think that fear can be a good thing, just because it keeps you hungry. I knew nobody had ever qualified as an individual in their last year in the team division, but I was like, that's awesome. I'm going to be the first to do something.
Oh, I hope the folks listening to this can understand the gravity of what you just said. I mean, I had this Instagram post probably a few weeks back where I talked about this exact thing. It was this idea of burning the boats to an extent where you go, hey, look, there's no other way for me off this island. Like I'm either going through or I'm not getting off. And it kind of sounds like that's what you did. You called your shot. Now, granted, there aren't a ton of people that are fit enough, metaphorically speaking, to call their shot and get off that island, but you did. And so, okay, so you say no to the age groups. You say I'm going to the elite division, and then you crush the open. I mean, right? You smoke it. What was that like?
That part of me was surprised, and part of me was not surprised at all. And I say that just because I knew how hard I had been working. Not in an arrogant way. I really had no expectations for the Open. I was keeping all of my focus on semifinals and on the games, but I knew I was ready, and I knew I was going to be very competitive in the Open. But to see that was a very big confidence booster for the rest of the season, and just any doubt that I had in my mind. And because there were doubts throughout the whole season, I could always think back to the open and always think back to the feeling of, whatever happens, I've earned it. Like, good or bad, I've earned this. And that was a great feeling to have going forward, because I knew I had earned it in a really good way.
And you ended up getting second in the world.
Yes.
Or wait, in the how did it work this year? Was it the U.S. or the world? How did you?
In the world.
That's unreal. So, I mean, arguably, it's. I mean, and you ended up winning an event too.
Yeah.
Which I would arguably say it's harder to win an event in the open simply because there's more people and there could potentially be more specialists than at the games, right? Would you agree with that, or am I just off my rocker?
I would, and that was, we actually have a brute strength group chat with some of Matt's teen athletes that we've had ever since camp in Florida, and we were texting each other before that event, and I forget who said, like, we're all going to go sub 10, and I was like, no, I'm going sub 9, and to be able to say that kind of as a joke. And then I was doing the math, and I was like, just based on stuff I had done, I was watching videos, I was timing just each rep, and I was like, okay, I am going to have to sprint the whole time, but I think I can actually do this. And like, that was another thing, looking at, because I think that was 17.1.
Yeah.
Looking at the 17.1 scores, I was like, okay, that's never been done before, but that's another thing that I can be the first to do. And like, I wrote in my journal, I'm going to win this open workout. I texted Matt that I was going to win this open workout, and he was like, yeah, go do it. And I mean, finished the workout, was really proud of it no matter what happened, just proud of my execution. Didn't redo it. I wanted to, but Matt didn't let me. And then just to see hard work pay off like that, like, I had believed it, so I wasn't surprised, but I was like, refresh. Yeah. And then like Wednesday came, and to have actually done something, that was just a little taste of what's coming.
That is incredible. I mean, so I want to get back to the whole group chat with the teen athletes, because I've grown very fond of both Dallin and James. So I want to get back there, because there seems to be some nice smack talk that I want to get into. But what was that conversation like? Because I know when I had Matt on, he referenced it. There was a conversation that you guys had, and he said, it was clear to me as a coach that we were no longer training for the age groups, that we were training for Emma to get on the podium with the elites, or the podium, like, do you remember that conversation that you guys had that was about that?
I do. I remember that so well. That was after Wadapalooza 2020 in February, before everything got crazy. I didn't have the event I wanted. I had only been working with Matt, I think, about 2 months at that point. And like, that was whenever I felt like I had really made huge gains, but I had no idea what was coming, and they were way bigger, and that was awesome. But I just remember feeling very disappointed in myself, but seeing that Matt still believed in me after that. And he was like, okay, we've seen a couple things we can work on, but that's a good thing. Like, better to find them here than at the games. Like, now we know what we need to do, and we know what you're capable of. Like, and we know what you can be capable of. And like, in that moment, I just remember, like, I won, but I was very disappointed with a lot of my finishes on the events. And in the moment, I didn't really believe in my potential a whole lot. I was like, I should have done better. I thought I'd earned doing better. But to see that Matt still believed in me, I think that makes that conversation even more powerful.
And when you were at Wadapalooza, the when you're referencing, was this like, did they have a teen division, or was this, okay, so that's what you want?
Yes.
Is that my understanding?
Yeah. Yes.
And you were disappointed in
Yes.
yourself after that?
I was. I made so many mistakes. Like physically, I felt like I should have done better in a lot of the events. I remember there was one event, it was 9 lives, and I think it was part, like the second part of that workout. And they were like, you had to do 6 toe to bar and then go to a barbell movement. And I remember running at 5 toe to bar. And like my judge was calling me back. And I was like, why is my judge calling me? Like, I just need to keep running. Um, and like that cost me a lot of time. So there were just so many little things like that. It's like, not only am I not as fit as I want to be, I also didn't execute near as well as I want to and as I need to. And I was like, am I always going to be like this? But Matt was just there to be like, no, you're not. We know, we know you can get where you want to be. And this, like, you just finished your last competition as a team. We didn't know that, like, the rest of the sanctionals were going to be canceled. So there was no way for me to get to the games that year as an elite. I tried through the age, well, I did the age group online qualified, but then the games were canceled that year. So that really, really, truly was my last competition as a teen. And like at the time, it kind of felt like a low, even though the leaderboard didn't reflect that. Um, but it was a really great way, a really powerful way to finish, just because of the conversation we had after and seeing how much Matt believed in me, even though there were highs and even though there were lows, that he still believed in me in the lows and that I could too.
It's so interesting to see that as this is just, I think this is life. And I think that as I've gotten older, I've started to realize this as well, is like for something to truly grow, something else must die. You know what I'm saying? It's like there has to be this thing that like the leaves have to fall off the tree and all come down and just look horrid for 4 months, and then before spring can come and bloom. And it sounds corny, but it really kind of what sounded like happened here. It's like and not that the teenage part of you died or anything. I mean, but it's almost like you accepted, hey, this isn't my competition anymore. What I'm trying to do is bigger than that now. And then you go on to, obviously, spoiler alert, people know what you did at the games and you absolutely crushed it. Like, was there ever a point in your mind, and I know I kind of asked this earlier, but I want to kind of get back to it, that you go like, I'm a pioneer, because like no one had done what you were doing. And did you ever think, okay, what if I don't make it? What if I don't get there? Did that ever go into your head, or you're just like, no, I'm finding a way. There is no other way?
Yeah, there really was no other way. And in making the decision not to do the age group online qualifier, that filled me with doubts. It was like, what if I am injured? What if I am sick at the Granite Games? Like, there are things out of my control that could happen. Would I want the team division to fall back on? But I would never be happy there. Like, I will only be happy when I am the best version of myself I can possibly be. And that's always what I will chase, even when it's risky and scary and uncomfortable. Like, nobody ever achieved greatness just by playing it safe and by being in their comfort zone. And I mean, sometimes, like in events at the Granite Games, I took way too many risks. That didn't work either. But some of the risks I took worked. And it's risks and fear that's got me where I'm at today. And that's something that just really recently I've learned to lean into.
It is interesting, and I know you've been asked this before on other podcasts, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, so to speak. But it was interesting that for those that watch Granite Games, I mean, and I asked Matt about it point blank. I said, hey, like, on that last workout with the lunge, I was like, was that planned? He goes, he straight up said, that was an athlete being an athlete. And I was like, respect, man. And, obviously for everyone watching, they know you cross that finish line like you win the Granite Games. And, I heard you say earlier on a podcast, you were like, I wasn't there just to like take a first place and go home, or a second place and go home. I was there to like be dominant. I was there to like etch my name in and go, Emma Cary is here. I'm just curious, like, what did you learn through all those experiences? Because as you said, you're not risk adverse. I mean, you took some big time risk, and not just that workout, but there were quite a few others we could get into. Maybe a little synopsis, if you would.
Yeah. The whole weekend, I think the biggest thing I learned was the importance of being adaptable. Like in the thruster run event, I tested it and it went great. I went unbroken, no problem. I ran fast. It was perfect. And I was like, it's going to go even better on the competition floor. And I mean, the plan was unbroken and run fast. And that was the only plan. Like, to me, that was the only way I could win. And I was there to win that workout. Like, I didn't care. Like, in that moment, I didn't care about the results of the rest of the weekend. I just wanted to win that workout. And lately I've seen that that's not always the best mindset, to just risk it all to win one workout. And it sounds really obvious now.
Just burn it down, baby.
Yeah, but I did the 18 unbroken, and because we had started a little bit farther down the football field, the run was not as long as whenever I tested it. So, and I wasn't thinking about any of this at the time, but I run to the dumbbells and my shoulders are still really fatigued. And I get like 6 reps into the round of 15, and I'm like, I could fail. And then I'm like, well, unbroken, gotta win it. And then I start failing, and then I like get really, really close to failure, and I just like barely squeeze out the rep, and that is way past the point that I should have broken them. But I was like, it's got to be unbroken, and I think I was at like 8 at this point, so not even close to being done. But then I fail, and then I put the dumbbells down, and then I just keep going until I fail. In training, I think I'm usually good at being like, oh, I can't do this set unbroken. I just need to do 9-6 or 6-5-4 or whatever. But at the Granite Games, I was like, I've already failed because I'm not going unbroken. And then I would just go until I failed, go until I failed, go until I failed. And that event is the only time I've ever thrown up from a workout. And it was like, sometimes whenever Matt will give me a workout that really hurts, on a scale of like 0 to thrust or run at the Granite Games, I'll be like, this one was like a 7. So I definitely, like, looking back on that event, it needed to happen. Like, in the team division, I can be mentally tough and I can hang on and I won't fail. Like, if those would have been 35-pound dumbbells, I wouldn't have failed.
For sure.
And at the Granite Games, I was like, I want to win so much more than I want to be comfortable right now. I will handle any amount of discomfort that this workout causes so I can win. And like, I just ignored it. And looking back on it, I should have been like, okay, this is way too early in the workout to be feeling like this. Like, you are going to fail. Failing won't help you win. Like, you can still want to win. But failing will not get you there, and breaking these won't make you mentally weak. And that's something that I could not put together on the floor at the Granite Games. Had a much better day 2. And then day 3, the first 2 back-to-back events did not go as I had planned at all. But I did a really good job just staying in my own lane and then making up some time by the end. Went a little bit too fast on the second part of the back-to-back workout. Stepped on the corner of my box, so then like the box slipped.
I saw. I was so upset. I was like, no.
Yeah. So from that workout, I learned how much I need to be aware of the situation. And I've always felt like I needed to be aware. I've always felt like situational awareness was being aware of my competitors, but even more importantly, it's being aware of my situation. And like, my situation is that I'm on a soft box. I usually train on a hard box. My grip is really tired. My legs are really tired. My core is really tired. And knowing that if I step on the corner of the soft box, I probably can't save it. like that was not even a thought. That was another workout where win was the only thought.
Mm.
Um, like I did not feel like I had had my best weekend, but then going into the last event, I was tied for first, and I knew what could happen if I failed, but I also knew what would happen and how great the reward would be if I
Mm.
succeeded. And I was like, okay, I'm willing to take this chance. I mathematically had my invite to the games. I didn't care if I was second, third, fourth, or fifth if I wasn't first. Like, first was the only option. And the workout went really great until it didn't. And that's a risk from the weekend. Probably the only like major risk I took that I don't regret, even though it was the one that ended up costing me the
Yeah.
most. Like watching the video, it's really hard because I see I could have broke and probably still
Yeah.
won easily. Um, but at the time, I was doing what I thought needed to be done. And really, like with what I could see with having the dumbbells over my head, like I did everything I could do. And that was actually a really good thing to happen because I worked on a lot of overhead stability. Got to finish with overhead walking lunges again at the
Yeah.
games, and these went much better.
It's crazy because you're exactly right. And I remember because I talked to Matt, it was right after the Granite Games, and that's exactly what he said. Was he goes, "This is such a great opportunity. You know, we've mathematically got our ticket to the games, and now I know what needs to be one of our priorities going in to the CrossFit Games." And so you get to the CrossFit Games. What was the for you? And I know you are a training fiend. You love training, so I'm sure you absolutely loved all of the things. And I don't really want to spend our time there. I really kind of want to get somewhat up to the games where event one happens and like you come out of the water and you come off that kayak and you crush it. I mean, you get sixth place, and I think everyone's going. I mean, I was talking to some, we kind of had our group text, and I was like, this girl's like here to like compete. She's not here to participate. Like, what was going through your head after you get done with that? And you're like, oh, okay, I did pretty well.
Yeah, this might sound bad, but a little bit of disappointment because I was like, oh, I could have been top five. Got so close to that. Um, but I knew it was an awesome start to the weekend or to the week. And I knew that swimming was a strength of mine, something that I've worked very hard on for a very long time. It's not just like the games come around and I'm like, spend 3 months training swimming. Like year round for
Mm-hmm.
years, I've swam. Um, so I knew I was ready for that. Like open water, that's not something I can work on year round because I live in Missouri, but I do work on that a lot, and I just felt
Mm.
very confident. And like I knew that there were a lot of things that could happen, like someone could take your fin off, and that would be really bad. But I knew all of that was, and I knew all of that was out of my control though. So I just knew I had controlled all of my preparation to the best of my ability, and I was ready. I had never, I kayaked. I think I got a kayak for maybe my 7th birthday. So I kayaked around a pond a little bit, but that's been the most kayak experience I've had. So I wasn't really sure how that would go. Um, but I was like, okay, this is a really good opportunity to
Mm.
practice being adaptable. You weren't adaptable at all at the Granite Games, and now you have 45 minutes on a kayak
Mm.
to be adaptable. And to be able to do that and see that improvement felt so good. And that even felt so much better than just getting
Yeah,
sixth.
right. And I hear all these stories because I spoke with Pat Vellner, I think it was last week, and he said that he had kayaked before, and he said it was just it for some reason it was just way harder than he remembers. Did you find it to be like super hard? Because I mean, a lot of people talked about how hard it was out there. What was your perspective on that?
Um, I thought it was a lot of fun. I don't normally think stuff like that when I compete. I'm normally just like here to win, gotta win,
Hmm.
all focused on winning. Um, but on that event, it was like, wow, I'm at the CrossFit Games and I'm kayaking across the lake. Like, this is really, really cool. This is an awesome experience. Like, I've worked so hard for this and now I'm here. And like that thought went away really quick, and I was just so focused on the task at hand. But I was
Mm.
actually really happy when I kayaked. I was trying to stay relaxed. It did feel a little bit weird because I kind of had my steady pace and then my all out sprint pace. And I started at the
Mm-hmm.
sprint pace, and I was like, okay, this is not going to work.
Right. Yeah.
But then I just got into my steady pace, and it didn't feel too fast, but it felt like as fast as I could go without just really regretting
Mm.
it later. Um,
Yeah.
I got passed a few times on the kayak, but then I was
Mhm.
able to pass a lot of people by the end. So I was
Yeah.
sixth out of the water and then finished sixth in the event. So that was,
Wow.
yeah, so that was good to see that they were both pretty consistent. I like it sounds funny now, but there were kind of waves out there, and like one hit my
Yeah.
boat, and it was like it kind of went straight up. But I got so much water in my boat, and that was probably at about the halfway point, and
Oh
that made it
wow.
harder. I was like, there was this little plug thing between my legs, and I was trying to unscrew that, but I couldn't. I was like, this is taking way too much time. I just got to go like this. Um, so that wasn't planned, but having the extra weight by the end, I think definitely did make it harder. My arms didn't feel too tired until I jumped in the or kind of belly flopped into the water for the exit swim, and then I was like, wow, like they are
This
tired.
hurts.
Um, but like, after that event on the bus ride back, I was kind of thinking, could I have gone harder? Like I felt like maybe I had just a little more to give. Um,
Mm.
but it was such a long workout. I think I was very smart about it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that was also missing at the Granite Games that I
Yeah.
was finally able to put together here. So it just showed me so many good improvements I made from the Granite Games, and it was the best way I could have started.
You're such a good podcaster. You like weave all these good things like together, and you're like weaving lessons and stuff. Like she could just host her own podcast. She doesn't need me. Um, like this is good. Make my job easy. I love it. To so as we're looking at the rest of day one, and I've got the events up here. So event 2 and event 3, which you take some similar finishes on. Um, event 2, it was 29th. You got cap +3, and then event 3 was 27th. And so those event 2 was obviously the sled drag, pig flip, muscle up event, and then event 3 was the 50 or 550-yard sprint. Walk me through those. Obviously, you come out of the water 6th, have a really good finish, and then because I know you, I feel confident saying this. Like those were disappointing finishes to you.
Yeah, those were extremely disappointing and even a little bit scary. Um, just thinking like I had one good finish, but I've had two terrible finishes, and like, can I come back from this? What if these are the finishes that will keep me off the podium or out of the top 10 or out of the top 20? Like, what if these are the finishes that make me get cut? Like,
Mm.
and and it was a very different feeling on both of those events, just because the pig one, I had no idea how to flip the pig. Like, I have flipped tires. I felt
Really?
very efficient at that. But then I would get the pig up, and because it was on the turf, it would slide forward, and then I would just not be in a good position at all. Um, so then I'd have to do this like weird push jerk thing back under the pig, and I was watching other people who really I know I'm stronger than these people flipping the pig like nothing. So I know I wasn't. I mean, I know I'm strong enough
Yeah.
to lift the pig, and it was so discouraging not to be able just to put the technique
Mm.
together out there. And I know it was my first time touching a pig, but a lot of other people were in the same boat, and they clearly had handled it a lot better. And to see that like that event didn't really reflect my fitness, it just reflected me not being able to flip a pig well. That was like that's always hard to accept, I think, whenever it's like you know you could have done better even though you weren't able to do better in that moment.
Mm.
And then the sprint event was kind of the opposite. Like, it went perfect. I felt like I was flying. I ran just as hard as I could, and I took last in my heat. And like, I walked back in and I'm like, I think I will get last place in that event, period. Like, because I was last in my heat by a lot. And thankfully I didn't. But that was everything I had. And on that one, it almost hurt more than event two.
Mm.
Just seeing that my very best wasn't good enough. And I texted Matt because we got to go back to the North Park warm up area where Matt couldn't be. And I was like, this is the first time I've looked around and felt like maybe I don't belong here.
Wow.
And Matt was like, you're 3 events in. Like, 3 events do not define your weekend. There are a lot of points left. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, but will the whole weekend be like this? And like, still at that point, I didn't believe it would be. And like, honestly, it kind of was. And that's a hard thing to accept. Like, I've said there were a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but honestly, there were just a few highs and then a lot of lows. But I think for my first year, that's been a really good thing, just because I learned so much more from the lows. And that was such a good opportunity to practice being resilient. Because after event 2, before event 3, I didn't get to see Matt. And Matt has, like, I guess I'm just a very emotional competitor, but Matt has always been there to just be like, it's okay, let's move on, let's focus on this next thing. And now I had to be able to do that for myself. And that was, at first, that was challenging, but it was like, this is what I need to win right now. It's being able to just mentally reset. This is one event, doesn't define me. Had another bad event, and I was like, okay, that was 2 bad events, it still doesn't define me. And to be able to stand on my start mat in event 4, no less confident because of that, was a really big win.
I have one quick follow-up question on the pig. Did you ever think about, because Rogue obviously does not sell pigs, right? And I think and I don't even know if they sold them from the games this year. I know that's where people have gotten theirs in the past, but I don't know if they sold them this year. I have no idea. But I guess my question is, I saw a lot of athletes buy those. They look like a really long kind of pig thing in it, but they're plate loaded. Did you ever think about getting one, or you were like, no, I'll just put some tires and I'll be good?
I never even thought about it. And that's really hard to admit, just because we've seen it before and there was no reason that it wasn't going to come back.
Right.
But it never even crossed my mind. But now we're building a pig that's loadable. So I will never be in that position again.
Such a savage. I love it. So, okay. Event 2 and 3 happened. We talked about those. Event 4, you, again, such a pro, just led me right into it. You stand on your start mat and you're like, all right, this is my workout. Or did you think that? I mean, because from a spectator watching, I'm going, oh, this is her workout. Like, I didn't know, obviously from seeing you at Granite Games, I didn't know, I was like, I don't know how she's going to handle that heavy thruster, but I know wall walk, she's probably going to crush the field. Yeah. You're in that first heat, a little bit of a disadvantage because guess what? The next heat can see your times. But walk me through that event, because you just looked unfazed. Like everyone was like lying on the floor in utter misery, and you were like, see ya.
So I love wall walks. I loved the open workout with wall walks. That was another one I really wanted to redo, but Matt wouldn't let me. I had never done wall walks before that. I think I've done wall walks once since then. So that was announced, and I was like, I did not think there would be wall walks.
No one did, really.
I had joked with people, like, well, at least you won't see any wall walks at the games. And then there's wall walks. But I was excited to see them. I didn't feel prepared, but I also didn't feel super prepared for them in the open, and they went well. So I'm like, I'm good. I love wall walks. I'm strong at wall walks, and I need to make the most of those. It was announced, and we were in the opening ceremony, so I was down on the floor, And I was like, I think I'm going to split like 10 down to 6, maybe in 2
Mm-hmm.
sets. And Matt was like, maybe even do 3 sets. So
Interesting.
I was like, wow, that's a lot of breaking. Are we sure about that? And Matt's like, yeah, just don't rest a long time and go fast on the wall walks. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And that was the best plan. I think I was first off the wall walks, which that always feels
But
good.
it's scary because
Um,
like no one wins the
yeah,
first workout type or the first heat type of thing, first round.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, it was almost like I couldn't believe it because I felt like I was just doing nice, relaxed wall walks. And then I do 4-3-3 on the thrusters. And they, like, the last set of 3, I'm like, whoa, these are feeling kind of hard. Um, but that's okay. We're just going to keep going. And then the round of 9, the wall walks, like, I don't know why they felt so hard, but I'm like, wow, like, this is a lot of wall walks.
It is.
Um,
55 is a
but
lot. I agree.
But I was like, okay, this, like, the wall walks are my opportunity. Like, the thrusters, I just have to hang on, but the wall walks, I can make moves. And that was what I was able to do. I think I was first off the wall again by a little bit more. And then I think I do a set of 3 thrusters, and then I do one, and then I fail. And I'm like, oh no, like, I'm kind of thinking, and this is not good, but I'm kind of thinking back to the Granite Games, and it feels like that moment where I was just failing, and I was like, okay, like that same thing is not going to happen this time. This time I'm ready. Um, so I was able to really learn from that rep because I just got way too far back on my heels, and I was kind of like, okay, even though your shoulders are tired, that doesn't mean you can let everything get really loose in your bottom position. Like, you still need to be really intentional with how you're squatting down and how you're coming up. And so I think I did like 4-1-4 that set, but I'm like, oh, it works. And I had a little bit less of a lead, and that time I was like, oh no, like, did I just
Yeah.
lose this workout? But then the round of 8, I'm like, this is all about you. Um, it is. I feel like it's so important whenever you compete to be aware
Agreed.
of where everyone is, but also to be
Right.
focused on you. And it's like, as long as I maximize everything I'm capable of, I'm going to be really happy. And like, that was my focus. And I just really stopped looking around. But every time I would hear the announcer say that I was first off the wall, first back to the wall, first off the wall, first back to the wall, and then I walked forward after the round of 6 to go to the next wall. And like, that was whenever I really looked for the first time, and I was like, wow, nobody else is here. Like, I am going to win my heat. Like, the first couple rounds, it was like I could win my heat, and then now it was like I'm going to win my heat, and absolutely nothing is going to take this from me. Um, and like the round of 5, I think, was the last round I broke. And then after that, I just like tightened my belt really tight. Didn't worry about loosening it for the wall walks. I was like, okay, this time could be competitive even in the second heat. So like, I'm not leaving a single thing to chance. Even though I have a decent lead in this heat,
You got to put the
who
pedal
knows
down.
what's going to happen
Yeah.
next heat? And I'm competing with them too. Um, so even though that time fell in the second heat, I was so proud of how I executed that, and just being able to stay calm and not being like, oh, I'm in the lead, I need to speed up. It's like, I just need to do me and do what I'm capable of. And to see that worked felt awesome.
It seemed like to me you had a little bit like of a because you mentioned the one that you kind of got too far back on your heels. You seem to want to me to have like a little wider grip, like in your front rack than most people. Is that just typically how you do thrusters, or was that an intentional thing with the wall walks?
That is just how I do
Okay.
thrusters. I mean, I knew I had a little bit of a wider grip, but until I went back and
It's
watched that event, I
substantial.
didn't know just how wide it was. Um, but that's where I clean, that's where I jerk.
Really?
Like, that is just where I feel the
Yeah, go for it.
strongest. Um, like, but during this time, I would definitely experiment with other
Yeah, I was
grips.
just curious. I mean, I just saw that because, like I said, until you really like watch it on like a whatever YouTube video or whatever, then you're like, wow, it's pretty wild. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh well, maybe she's trying to get her hands out because your hands are kind of close on the wall walk, and I don't know. So I didn't know if that was something that you were trying to do, but okay. So you get an off day, and then now we're let's see, we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 event day because 6 and 7 are back to back. So we got events 5 through 9. What stood out to you about day number 2?
Event 5, I think was, well, 5 and 6 were my most disappointing events from the weekend. Event 5, like, I felt like I was awesome at rope climbs, awesome at skiing, and like I never carried that sandbag, but I feel like I'm very strong with odd objects.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is going to be an awesome event for me. And then everybody else is moving off of their 4th rope climb, and I'm at like 2.5. I'm like,
wow,
how are you guys going so fast? And I'm like, that's okay. There's no way they can hold this. I'm just going to stay in my own lane, do my best. And then they hold it, and I don't hold my pace. Like, I just get slower, and it feels like everybody else is getting faster. And, like, after that event, that was another event that I was like, it just hurt because I felt like I should have done really well in it. And I had that belief, and I visualized doing so well that it felt like it had already happened. And it felt like I had already done so well, and that was just what I had already accepted as the result of that workout. And then, like, I beat one person in my heat, and later I found out she was injured in that. Like, she injured herself in that event.
Oh, goodness.
So I felt like, wow, I'm going to get last in this. I'm going to get cut. Like, that was whenever the doubts kind of started to spiral. But we had practiced being resilient, and we had practiced being like, okay, we can't change anything that just happened. We know what we can work on going forward. But it's not like we can do anything about what just happened. I love rope climbs, but I've just always thought you needed to rest between reps. And watching, like, whenever I went back and watched that event, it's like, I guess you don't need to rest between reps. And I have never trained not taking at least a little bit of rest. So, like, on the competition floor, I needed that rest. And even though I was taking it, I was just about to fail a rope climb. And, like, I did everything I could do on that event, and it wasn't enough for the finish I wanted. But now I know what I need to do, so it will be enough next time.
Now she's dangerous, folks. Dangerous. Yeah. I love it. So 6 and 7 are back to back. That was really like, it was really more of a running workout. At least as I was looking at it and thinking about it. Obviously, the weights were heavier, and we haven't really seen something like this at the games. That we've seen a lot of clean ladders, lots of snatch ladders, but nothing kind of like this. For someone like you that, and I've heard stories, heard rumors that you're a great runner, right? Were you excited about this, or did you look at the weights? Did that scare you any? I mean, because that second round gets up there.
No, I was so excited. They announced a speed ladder, and I was like, oh, I don't know how I will finish in this event. And I also knew I was kind of getting close to the cut line.
Right, because they cut at 30.
Yeah. Well, I think I wasn't ever close to that line, but I was close to the 20. And I knew that they would be cutting there eventually.
I gotcha, yeah.
So I was like, there's a lot of pressure on this event. And then I saw the speed ladder, and I was like, it's going to be a quick event, and this makes me very nervous. And then we saw the run, and I'm like, okay, I can push the run. Like, there's a lot that can go wrong still, but there will always be the effort there from me. Like, I can always count on myself to do as good as I can do, no matter how bad it hurts. And, like, I came out really hot in that. Kind of sprinted the first run. And then, like, the second run, I was really finding my pace. The third run felt good. And then I got to the third barbell, and I think it was 185, and I could barely power clean it. And that's like nothing to power clean. I caught it really wide, really low, and then I'm standing up this like really wide squat
Mm.
clean, and I was like, that's not good. I just need to squat clean the next one. Squat clean 195, no problem. And then like I run harder than I should have based on how the weights were
Mm.
feeling. Um, get back in, and there were like two or three other people setting up for the 205. So I'm like, oh, I gotta go. So I rushed it, and that was one of the most costly things I did
Mm.
all weekend, because I failed.
Yeah.
Like I can clean 205, no problem. And then I failed again, and I wasn't watching the clock, so then I go back to get chalk,
Yeah. And get capped.
and like I'm just back there chalking up, and then I hear like 3, 2, 1, and that was like I felt like I made so many mistakes, and that was something I could have done. Like I can snatch 205, and it's like couldn't even clean it, and that
Oh, I love it.
that was definitely the most disappointing event of the weekend. Um, but I was
Mm.
able to learn from it and make sure on event 7 I didn't lift before I was ready, and the cleans did not ever really feel good. Um, but I didn't let that get in my head. I just
Yeah.
ran kind of slow, ran to my lifters, just to make sure that like I ran slow enough, chalked up. I was like, I'm taking my time. All I need
Yeah.
to do is
That's right.
finish this. So that's an event that I kind of look back on, and I'm like, could I have pushed the run a little harder? Could I have rested a little bit shorter? But then I think about event 6, and I'm like, I think I did exactly what I needed to do. That also did show us another thing to work on is lifting, just being powerful under fatigue. Because with the way my legs felt, like my pull felt terrible, and then I was catching it
Mm.
in a bad position, and like the standing up part of the lift wasn't bad, um, but just I didn't have enough
Mm.
power left in my pull to do what I needed to
Mm-hmm.
do on that event. Um, I knew, like, after event 6, I told Matt I thought I was going to get cut. And Matt was like, we have 4 more events until we cut to 20. You are not going to get cut. Like, if you go out there thinking you're going to get cut,
Right.
you might
Yep.
get cut. Um, and, like, I just, emotionally, I feel like I got a little bit out of control after event 6, but event 7 was better. I think I was 22nd, or I didn't look. Matt did not let me look at the leaderboard after event 6
So
and
you were
7.
20. Here, I can tell
Um,
you. I've got it up. You were 20.
oh, I was sorry. I was saying going
Oh,
into event
okay.
8.
Okay. I
Yeah.
gotcha.
So I think I was still a little bit out of the cut line, but I didn't know that. I was like, I'm just gonna go have some fun with handstand walk.
Yeah. What
And
was that like?
I
Because,
had yeah, I've practiced the parallel bars
yeah.
a lot. That's another thing that I've practiced for years. It's not like it just came up and I did as much
Right.
as I could of it. So I felt really confident when it was announced. Um, and just, that was an event that I knew I couldn't race
Mm.
anybody. I just had to go when I
Right.
was ready. And I think that that was my best execution all
Really,
weekend.
event 8, the handstand walk.
Yeah.
And let's see, you ended up getting maybe 15th on that event. So like, well below the cut line at that point, or the eventual cut line, right? Because you're good now, right? Because you're not risk for getting cut at 30. You're thinking, hey, when they go to 20, I want to be in that 20, right? So
Yeah.
okay, so the handstand walk happens, and then the final event for that day is the Echo Bike Snatch. Now you just got done telling me that power output was something that, hey, I really feel like I need to work on. And not to mention, you just beat your legs down all day, and now we got to go do an Echo Bike. Oh my gosh, what's going through your head? I mean, are you like,
I was so
what?
excited. I was so excited about
Psycho.
that event. I love bike. Like whether it's echo bike, assault bike, concept 2 bike, I love bike. Um, I love snatch. I prefer like the 55 or 65 pound power snatch, but I was like, okay, 75. This is no problem. I can just go as hard as I
Right.
can go on the bike. going broken on the snatch. My grip will never be tired, and that did not happen. Um, I I know I was the first one off the first bike, but the power snatch, like every round of power snatch, I lost at
Mm,
least one spot there. Um, I had to break the second round just with grip fatigue. It felt weird, like I couldn't pull the bar high enough, so then I was getting
mm,
under it really low, or not really low, but low
sure.
for cycling power snatch at that weight. Um, so that was another event that I felt like I should have done a lot better than I actually did. Um, but I come back and like I was on the floor. I felt so bad after that
I
event,
can't
but
imagine.
I was on the floor. I try not to lay down, but I was. And I had to get off. So I just come back and I lay down in the warm up area. I think Matt told me to get on a bike, and I just lay down. Um,
I can't.
but I told him I was, I told him I was just really kind of disappointed in that event. And this was even before the second heat had gone. And he was like, "Well, you
Yeah,
did what you
you
needed
did.
to do. Like you, I mean, it was everything you could do, and it was what needed to be done." So like that event, especially after most of the day
Mm.
hadn't gone very well, to be able to have that performance was
Yeah,
something
no
I was really
kidding.
proud of.
So going into day 3, did and obviously you'll know this better than I would, but did they tell you exactly how long that first event run was going to be? Like, did they tell you, like, did you know going into it before the day started, hey, this is how long it's going to be, or did they tell you that morning, hey, it's going to be a 1.5 mile type run?
I believe that was one that we had known a couple weeks, or I think about
Mm.
a week in advance,
Mm-hmm.
because I hadn't tested it. Um,
Mm.
like it was too close to the games to actually test the workout. Um, I loved that event. I I was a little bit surprised with how fast everyone started on the run,
They
but I was like,
sprinted that thing.
but I was like, that's okay. I can run fast too. Um, I didn't think so many people would be able to hold on to that pace. So that was just kind of an eye-opening experience to be like, yeah, I'm fast, but everybody else here is really fast too.
Yep.
And like not that I ever struggle with being able to give my best effort in training, but anytime it's a thought, like
Mm.
whether to give that just little bit extra, experiences like this will always just feel so fresh and raw
Mm-hmm.
and really just painful. Um, but I like the first 2 rounds toe to bar went unbroken. My grip was getting a little bit tired, and then the third round of toe to bar, I think I got to 15, and then it was like my body just stopped doing toe to bar. And then I did 15, 10, 5. I had passed, I think, 3 people coming like on the last little bit of the run, and they all passed me because of the toe to bar. And
No. So you could have
yeah,
placed like potentially 3, 4 spots better.
yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. And I had no idea what I got in that event, but I was just sitting in front of the fan, and I was like, did I get cut? Because I'd been 17th going into the cut, and I thought I had done enough, but I was really having some doubts. Like, how did the people in like
That were around you.
21st,
Yeah.
22nd, 23rd do? Um, and I think like that was the most nervous I
Mm.
was the whole weekend, was just being like, what if my CrossFit Games is over? Like, what if I don't get to go back out there and fight and grow and learn? Like, there would be so many good takeaways from these last 5 events. What if I don't get them? But I did, and like I never, I never thought I would be close to the cut line, and it was really bittersweet being happy about not being cut because I wanted to be fighting for a podium spot at that point. Um, I wanted, and I fully expected not to even be thinking about the cuts all week, and then it was like it got so real, but I did what I needed to do still with that. And like I refreshed the leaderboard, and then finally it was there, and I felt like I'd won. Like I just had more opportunities, whether I climbed the leaderboard or not. I had more opportunities to grow.
Mm.
And I knew that was what I needed.
It really is amazing how resilient you are, because I mean you just, it's like, we talk about that, what was it, 9 lives. I feel like that's you. It's just like you have 9 lives. You're not gonna kill it. Like, you're just not. So you end up fighting back through the pegboard event, which I thought was kind of interesting, the way that they didn't allow you guys to move your chess pieces. So transitions became such an important part of that pegboard, dumbbell overhead squat, heavy jump rope. And I mean, it seemed like the people that did the best were the people that, A, blitzed the pegboard, and then B, had great overhead squat mechanics, where, if you watched or saw any of Cole Sager's, I mean, it was just like that guy was like just like a slinky, just up and down, up and down, up and down. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. Did you experience any like grip fatigue on that workout? Because it looked gnarly.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved that workout. I I was surprised with how many pegboards or with how many rounds I did and still placing that low. Because in past years at the games, just being able to do a couple pegboards was a
As
really
a
big
female, yeah.
separator.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and now the sport is to the point where you do them fast and you don't take any rest before you do them. And I needed that rest. Like, my grip was so tired, really pretty early on in that workout, and I knew I couldn't fail a pegboard. And then I think this was in the last minute of the workout. I went a little bit before I was ready because there was somebody else right by me. She was getting ready to go up. And I was like, this is a risk I can take. Like, I shouldn't be taking this risk in the first
Sure.
couple minutes of the workout, but now I can take this risk. Um, that is, like, I made it to the top of the pegboard barely. Like, I would do a hole and then I'd have to relax my arms and just hang there. Do a hole, relax my arms and just hang there. And then I get to the top and bring my right arm down, and then my left arm is still like at the very top peg, and I cannot hold on to it hard enough to take it out.
Oh, wow.
Like, I I was just barely holding myself up there, but I couldn't give it just a little extra to take it out. So I failed the pegboard on the way down. I run to the end of the floor to grab my pegs, but then by that point we have like 30
Dang.
seconds left, and I know I'm not making it back across the floor, up and down the pegboard. So then I just had to stand there, and that was hard. Um, Feeling like another event where my best wasn't enough. But that was, like, looking back on it, that's such a good thing that could have happened, because now I know how and where my best can get better. But at the time, it was just kind of that voice of being like, wow, do I really belong here? Um, but just another opportunity to be resilient. And this year has made me a lot of things, and I think resilient is at the top of that list. Um, I love that event, had a lot of fun with it. I love pegboards. I think I do a lot of pegboards, but it's very different whenever you're on like a
Yeah.
textured wood surface and on a short pegboard. Um, so that just another great learning experience.
Yeah, that plexiglass looks awful. And the thing is, unless you can build one, you can't go buy one, you know? So
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people go build plexiglass pegboards. So as we kind of wrap up and look at the final several events, how cool was it to be in that Coliseum for, I guess, what would have been Saturday night, and you're at that 1 rep max, and kind of how they did it is almost like a duel, kind of a knockout round was, I thought it was cool. It was visually fun to watch. Maybe not as an athlete. Maybe it wasn't fun to do. So maybe you could speak to that. It looked really cool. Maybe it wasn't really cool to do. I don't know.
No, I thought it was so much fun. I absolutely love Snatch. Um, I was expecting a better number. I was having a little knee issue from where I had tripped over 230 at the end of the clean ladder. And like my knee got very swollen and bruised, and I couldn't squat to the depth I needed to. And the warm up went terrible.
Really?
Like I was missing everything, and I didn't know what to expect going on the competition floor, and I had so many doubts. But then as soon as I stepped up to the bar, they all went away, and I knew I was ready for the event. No matter the circumstances, no matter what I had to fight through, I can fight. Like I fight really, really well, and I think I do some of my best work whenever I have to fight through something. So that's what I did. And even though I felt like I should have been capable of more, and the number was disappointing compared to what I've hit before, I think that was maybe my proudest moment from the weekend, just to be able to execute and to fight under those circumstances, because those are circumstances that I will probably be in again. I mean, not that exact same thing, but very rarely will everything just be perfect and feel perfect. And no, I can get through that. Like, I can get through whatever the sport throws at me. I can adapt. I can be resilient. I was proud of that. And, like, Matt was so proud of that. I couldn't tell, but I think he was really nervous after the warm-up because it did go bad.
You're like, you don't understand how bad this went.
And I think we were going to work up to 190 in the back, and we get to 175, and I barely make it. And Matt's like, yeah, let's call this good. And I'm like, yeah, let's.
Oh my God.
And just, like, that was also another great learning experience to see that no matter what happens in the warm-up area, things can go better on the floor. And I always had hope and confidence, and I was able to lift with that really well.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, as someone watching, you would have never known you were going through that. So talk about, I mean, like practicing what you preach, just being resilient. And I think a lot of it's just not showing it on your face. How we talked about this at the start about the body language, even just from podcasting, right? It's crazy your body language and how that communicates not only to yourself but then to other people. So for what it's worth, I would have never known that you were struggling to hit 175. But yeah, I mean, seriously, you just never known that. I mean, because you approached the bar with confidence and all of that, and I was just like, yeah, I just figured, hey, she's done, freaking 9 events, like she's super, or 10 events, whatever. She's 12 events, she's super tired. Like that's really all you think, Did you think on that next workout with the hay bales that just seemed like an allergy attack waiting to happen? Did you like? Because I heard some athletes saying their yokes were set either too low or too high, and that affected things. Did that happen to you?
That did not happen to me at all. That event did not go as planned one single bit, but I learned so much from it. The hay was just uncomfortable in ways I wasn't really expecting it to be. Like I was sliding on the hay. I had hay in my mouth and my nose and my eyes. Like it was just
gross.
Yeah. But now if that ever comes back, I will know I can handle that. Like I can handle that no problem. I did the GHDs faster than I've ever done GHDs before. The burpees, like the first round, felt pretty good. Like a little slow, and kind of like I was having to think too hard about every part of it. But got through those. I absolutely love heavy yoke carries. I was so excited to see that, and like I stand up the yoke, and I'm like, where did my core go? Like I normally feel like I can do short steps, fast steps, feel really strong and confident with that. Yeah. But I did not feel strong and confident. But I was like, this is what I have to work with right now, and I'm going to do that to the absolute best of my ability. And like in round 2, things felt even worse than they did in round 1. And then in round 3, I was pretty close. I was like, I can finish at this time. I'm running to my yoke, and they say 10 seconds. And I've just done this whole buy-in, and I'm not going to get
Move it.
a
Oh
yoke
my
carry.
gosh.
And that was like, that's a different kind of resilience when it's like, instead of
Yes.
after, I mean, because you don't have an hour to get over a failure. It's like, now I have a minute to get over a failure. And it's like, I, nothing I've done in the past in this workout matters anymore. All I can do, all I can control now is this very last round. And like, I saw so many people had already finished, and I thought I would be one of those people who had already finished. But I was like, I'm not. Like, I've done my best. I'm going to keep doing my best. I can keep fighting for that. And like, that last round, that took a lot of grit, and that's what I have though.
So the last event that I want to talk about, because we already talked about event 15, that I call that your redemption workout, right? You end up getting 7th in that workout. You crushed it. It had overhead walking lunges. You said, "World, I'm Emma Cary. I worked on this. Here I am." There's this picture of you. I'm sure you've seen it. Being CrossFit claims that it came from the briefing for the deadlift and freestanding handstand push-up event. And in the caption, it says, "We just released the new standard for the freestanding handstand push-up," and like your mouth is like kind of open, and your eyes are like, OMG. Was it was it that much of an astonishing reaction to like, oh, we're about to do this?
Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing, but I was very surprised to see those. I have never done a freestanding handstand push-up before, like, not even one. Um, I texted, Matt was not in the Coliseum when that was announced, so I texted the workout to him, and he said, "Have you ever done freestanding handstand push-ups before?" I said no. And he said, "Well, today's a great day to learn." And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
is.
we have to. Um, so that was another event that was kind of frustrating. Um, just because it wasn't like my shoulders were ever tired, my legs would just go too far back or too far forward, and I just felt kind of out of control of my body in that event. Like, I just couldn't figure out the best way to do it. I think I did singles the whole time in handstand push-ups, and I felt like that could have been a really good event for me if I could have put stuff together a little better. Um, can't change any of that now, but I will be doing a lot of those, and next time will be just a completely different story. And I mean, I know that there will be movements that will come up again that I've never done before, but I'm also going to work on just building just a better baseline of body control and body awareness, and even just like coordination and agility and stuff that, like, I didn't really do any other sports before CrossFit, like a little bit of tumbling, but really stuff that I've never been forced to have until some of the crazy stuff at the games comes out. And like, I don't ever want to be in that position again. There were so many times I was in a position at the games that I don't ever want to be in again. And that feeling, like, it's not a good feeling at all, but I think it's a necessary feeling if you want to improve.
Outside of resilience, as you look back on the games this year, what's for you, and we can group Matt in there too, for you guys as a unit, what's the biggest takeaway as kind of you're going into your off season and maybe the focus going forward?
Yeah, I've got a lot of work to do, but I love doing the work. Like, at first, and this was really on the drive home from the games, I was so happy, but also just surprised and disappointed and had so many emotions going on. And it was like, wow, I want to be the best. I don't just want to be in the top 10. I don't just want to be on the podium. I want to win, and I don't just want to win once. And to get to that point, I have so much that needs to be improved. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I can do that. But then it's like, isn't that exciting that I have so much that can be improved and that I still have so much potential to improve? Um, Seeing that makes me believe in myself more than ever. So that was one of my biggest takeaways. And just seeing that where I am at one point doesn't mean that that's where I will be forever. Like at the Granite Games, was not proud of how I competed, how I wasn't always resilient, wasn't always adaptable, and then it's like I worked on that, and I needed those things so many times at the games. Like those are things you hope you don't need. Like you hope your strategy's perfect, you hope every event goes perfect, but I know it always won't. And to have those things and have those things so strong is a really good thing to see.
I know that you've been told this 1,000 times, but you are wise beyond your years, and and probably one of the kindest people that I've ever had the opportunity to speak to in this space. So I'm so grateful for your time, Emma. Is there before we go, is there anything you want to add or throw in before we jump off here?
Really, really know just how much I love what I do and how grateful I am for my team. Um, like it's an individual sport, but it wouldn't be possible without so many people. And like I'm just so grateful for all they do for me. And I
Yeah,
I want this so badly, and to have people who want it for me just as bad as I do is the best feeling.
I love it. I can't wait to have this conversation next year when you're on the podium and we're reminiscing about the time that we talked about you placing 27th.
Thanks.
All right, Emma. Thank you so much for your time. You're the best. Sincerely appreciate you, and thanks for all your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon.